Catastrophic flooding in Slovenia claims lives and destroys homes and land.
President Volodymyr Zelensky hails Ukraine's air force against Russia, while strikes continue in the south and peace talks in Jeddah draw to a close.
As the deadline for coup leaders in Niger to restore democracy passes, military leaders close the country's airspace. Hungary's Devil's Den Cultural Festival takes place with people enjoying music, art and calm reflection. Catastrophic floods in Slovenia have been described as the worst disaster in the country's modern history. At least 4 people have lost their lives and damage to property is estimated to be over 500 million euros. According to the government, huge parts of the country have been hit by the flooding.
Škoda je nepredstavljiva. Praktično 2/3 Slovenije je tako ali drugače prizadetih in napori, zato da bomo lahko spet omogočili normalno življenje, bojo zelo veliki.
In neighbouring Austria, at least 1 victim has been reported. 2 people fell into a river off an eroded bank in Carinthia, but only 1 of them could be saved. Half of the Carinthia region has been affected by flash floods since Friday, and emergency services responded to numerous calls for rescue and evacuation. Meanwhile, firefighters in the Pyrenees are tackling huge forest fires. In central western Portugal, several villages had to be evacuated. Over the weekend, 6 people were reported injured, while 6,200 hectares of forest burned. On the Spanish-French border near Portbou, 130 people were evacuated due to approaching fires. The blaze destroyed about 20 hectares in just 3 hours and spread rapidly. On Sunday, firefighters reported they had the fire under control.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday hailed the country's air force and its defence against Russian missiles and drones. Addressing soldiers on Ukrainian Air Force Day, Zelensky praised Western military support and claimed Moscow had failed to destroy Kyiv's military branch despite recent strikes against its air bases and grain terminals.
Ми зробимо все, щоб український повітряний щит ставав тільки міцнішим. Саме тут, саме в нашому небі, можемо довести, що терор програє. Всі разом можемо це довести. Всі партнери. Дуже важлива відповідальна позиція кожного з партнерів щодо постачання систем ППО і ракет до них. Повний захист від терору потрібен тут, щоб потім не довелось думати, як захистити від нього ще й інші народи.
Russia has accused Kyiv of shelling infrastructure in its controlled territory. Moscow-appointed officials in the occupied region published photos purporting to show damage to the Chonhar road bridge linking mainland Ukraine to Crimea. Meanwhile, delegates from some 40 countries concluded 2 days of peace talks in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. The Kyiv-organised meetings drew to a close on Sunday without any concrete proposals, aside from vowing to continue discussions. The Belarusian exiled opposition leader says President Alexander Lukashenko is trying to provoke the country's eastern neighbours. Svetlana Tikhanovskaya addressed exiled opposition figures at the New Belarus 2023 conference in Poland's capital Warsaw over the weekend. Fears of possible provocations and infiltration has led Warsaw to beef up security along the Poland-Belarus border. Poland has reported Belarusian combat helicopter units and Russian Wagner mercenaries being relocated closer towards its territory.
Thousands of people showing support for coup leaders in Niger gathered in Niamey in defiance of an ultimatum by ECOWAS to restore democracy. A deadline by the regional bloc passed at midnight, and with the threat of military action if the demands weren't met, Niger closed its national airspace. Niger's presidential guard ousted and held democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum in the coup on the 26th of July. ECOWAS immediately imposed sanctions on Niger and gave General Abdurrahman Chiani, the coup leader, 1 week to restore Bazoum to power or face the potential use of force. Chiani has vowed to respond immediately to any foreign intervention.
Russian flags waving outside the French embassy in Niger, demonstrating a desire for a new regime. Experts warn of Moscow's growing influence in the Sahel region, in particular an alliance with the Russian mercenary Wagner Group. After President Mohamed Bazoum was ousted by the military coup last week, the future of the former French colony remains unclear, fragile and open to exploitation.
Russia is looking at opportunities in the region. It's already very engaged in Mali in partnership with the junta there. Although Russia, through its foreign minister, Mr. Lavrov, has condemned the coup in Niger and asked for constitutional order to be returned, and Russia also supported a UN Security Council statement to that effect last Friday. The founding member of the Wagner mercenary group, Mr. Prigozhin, has welcomed the coup, saying it's a move against imperialism, neocolonialism, and offers his support to the putschists in Niamey.
ECOWAS, the West African regional group, has demanded the junta cede power before Sunday the 6th of August or face extreme sanctions and possibly brute force. But analysts say the Russian threat is just one part of the puzzle. Islamic extremists, as seen in neighbouring countries, are a bigger threat.
What is at stake is regional. Any political destabilization would help jihadists, and Niger has a central spot for jihadism to use from either Mali or Burkina or even Libya.
Stability and peace under President Bazoum was seen as crucial for democracy to continue in the African region and for the world as a whole. Niamey has worked with Paris and other European capitals to confront radical Islam and counter illicit form of migration.
Niger is a key ally for the whole Europeans involved in Sahel. You have Germany present, Belgium, Italy, and what's interesting in Niger, it represents also what the European Union wants to do with the African on these challenges.
Flying back to the Vatican from his trip to Portugal, Pope Francis spoke to journalists. He raised the plight of the thousands of migrants who die trying to reach Europe. He said the issue would be on the agenda at meetings organised by the Church in Marseille at the end of September.
I vescovi del Mediterraneo faranno questo incontro anche qualche politico per riflettere sul dramma dei migranti. Il Mediterraneo è un cimitero, ma non è il cimitero più grande. Il cimitero più grande è il Nord Africa. È terribile quello.
Earlier, the Pope left Portugal after marking World Youth Day with a mass attended by 1.5 million people. It's the second time in recent weeks the Pontiff has spoken out about the ongoing migrant crisis.
Italian coastguards have rescued 57 migrants from 2 boats that capsized overnight Saturday in rough seas south of a tiny Italian island. Officials say some 30 people are believed to be missing, and the body of a boy and a woman were recovered from one of the vessels. Meanwhile, 20 migrants were rescued by helicopter after they were found clinging desperately to jagged rocks off Lampedusa. Some 2,500 migrants are currently housed in a temporary residence on the island.
Taking to the streets to show their support for Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan, who's been arrested and jailed. Hundreds of people showed up for the march on Sunday in Muzaffarabad, the capital of Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Khan had spent the night in a high-security prison outside Islamabad after being arrested at his home. The court had handed him a 3-year sentence for corruption on Saturday, a development that could end his future in politics.
Former US President Donald Trump has demanded the judge in his most recent indictment into alleged election fraud in 2020 be removed. Trump had appeared before Judge Tanya Chutkan in Washington on Thursday to deny the charges. Trump said on social media that there was no way he can get a fair trial with the Obama-appointed district court judge. Prosecutors asked Chutkan on Friday to restrict what Trump can say publicly about the case. She gave Trump's team until Monday to respond and denied their request for a deadline extension.
Described as a cultural coming together in Hungary, the 16th Devil's Den Cultural Festival has been held in the south of the country. The 5-day event was organised in 2 villages, offering more than 500 events, theatre performances, literary events, art, family events and concerts. It's not known for its unbridled frenzy, more its intimacy and tranquility.
Azon barátokat, de barátok nélkül is meg fogja találni a helyét. Mindig fog találni valami olyan programot, ahol ő el tudja magát foglalni. És a koncertek is isteniek.
The festival, also known as Catalan or Cauldron, carries on this sense of freedom and spirituality. It features its own Indian reservation for internal contemplation.
Összegyűjteném az összes szót, ami elhangzik 5 nap alatt itt, és annak tanulja a fák és a felhők és a fű, amiknek semmi köze ahhoz a, hát szerintem nem jó, lebutított, vidéket tekintve elszegényedett helyzethez.
16 éve indult útjára az Ördögkatlan Fesztivál. Az évek alatt a körülmények változtak, sőt nehezebbek lettek. Ez a közösség azonban évről évre bizonyítja, hogy mennyire fontos kicsit elszökni, elbújni a hétköznapok elől. Ilyen meghitt helyszíneken, mint az mögöttem is látható. Kónya Rita, Euronews, Ördögkatlan Fesztivál, Nagyharsány.